Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Kim and I have been teaching Yin Yoga for a bit now, and I'm excited for you to join me in this moment on your mat. Go ahead and grab yourself a mat, or at least a easy place for you to be able to lie down and stand up a little bit for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, moving through several breathing and physical movement exercises. As you find yourself a space to be, gather any yoga props that you use, such as a bolster or blocks or an eye pillow. Or if yoga props are not something you currently have around you, gather a few pillows off of your bed or your couch and add a blanket underneath where your knees will be, as we will have a few hands on our knees and knees on the ground poses. Yin Yoga is a practice of moving intentionally through different movements without necessarily expecting any level of flexibility, physical fitness, or any of the things that you have as preconceived notions about what yoga might be. Those don't apply here. Any version of the pose is the pose, and if you've taken a class with me before, you've often heard me say that phrase, as well as noticing that when we find ourselves in two-sided poses, one side might be very different than the other. That's because your body isn't as symmetrical as maybe you would think or hope or expect, or Instagram could lead you to believe. We each live our days and our lives moving through the motions of what we're expected to do. Some of those motions allow different parts of our body to be strained or stressed in different ways than others. Sometimes that varies day to day, hour to hour, or season to season. As you find yourself moving through postures tonight that include two sides, please remember not to judge yourself, not to have expectations that are unreasonable for yourself, and also not to push yourself to a sense of pain. Throughout Yin Yoga, I instruct classes to kind of ride the wave of sensation. And what I mean by that is, if you were to rate sensation on a scale of 0, meaning exactly maybe how you feel right now, where nothing's exacerbated, nothing's stretched too much, you're just kind of here, to a scale of pain, if we wanted to give pain the number 10. We never want to get to pain. We never want to experience pain, and we never want to cause ourselves pain just for this purpose of growing. We might want to cause ourselves to move into sensation, to notice discomfort, and to notice what it can be like to sit with discomfort and ask it what it has to teach us. So find yourself maybe at about a 6, where 6 is sensation. Maybe you're looking to move a little bit deeper, so you move into a 7, but never really move yourself past there, because then you're bordering on the edge of pain, strain, and pushing yourself for the sake of pushing yourself, rather than sitting at that growth edge. So go ahead and find yourself in a comfortable seat, or lying down if you haven't already.
So we will actually, you can choose to get started in seated, or if you would like to start in wide-legged child's pose. We're going to spend 5 minutes just kind of officially arriving into the practice of yoga and stillness and just like reconnecting with our breath. So go ahead and decide which position you would like to be in for 5 minutes, whether that be a seated position or a wide-legged child's pose. And I will, if you want to have your video on or off, totally fine. I will mute everyone from the beginning and then unmute at the end. And so, all right. And as you find yourself kind of getting into your first pose of tonight's Yin yoga class, restorative yoga class, go ahead and begin to just notice all the parts of your body that are touching anything that's underneath you. If you are seated, maybe you notice how your seat and your legs feel against the mat or blanket or prop if you're seated up. Or if you have come into wide-legged child's pose, just begin to notice from your feet up to your head all the different points of contact between your body and the mat. And so maybe in child's pose, you begin to notice what the tops of your feet feel like, and then your shins, and then your knees themselves, how they feel press down into the mat. And depending upon how you are, maybe you notice your sit bones and your hips push back against your heels or just kind of on a prop. Take a big inhale breath, whether you are seated or in child's pose, and see if you can inhale your breath all the way down into your hips, into your pelvic bowl, and just fill yourself up all the way down to the second half of our body. And then as you exhale, see if you can feel that breath just leaving your body, going back upward your spine, whether that be lying down up towards your head or seated up towards the crown of your head, towards the ceiling. And continue noticing the parts of your body that are touching the ground if you're face forward in child's pose. And if you're seated, just continue that rhythmic breathing of inhaling your breath in through your nose, all the way down into your hips, into your pelvic bowl, and then exhaling up your spine, out your nose. And throughout tonight's class, I want us to be invited to come back to this rhythm of a breath. I like to think of my breath as a wave when I'm looking for kind of an anchor point amidst whatever my day has brought to me, or that week, or that season, or sometimes just that moment when I have to make sudden unexpected changes. I come back to that idea that a teacher gave to me several years ago, that waves arrive exactly at the shore, exactly at the time that they were meant to, never before and never after. And so they're a constant rhythm that changes the pattern, but they flow on their own. And so for the next minute or so, just allow your breath to flow through you. Maybe you want to come up with a different visualization for you for your breath, but choose one that you can come back to tonight as we're in the longer holds for 3 to 5 minutes. That when you feel that wave of sensation coming up of, oh no, I have no desire to be in this pose any longer, see if you can take a couple breaths with that rhythm, with that visualization, and just sit with it. And if the physical sensation isn't what comes up for you and it's more of the emotional sensation, allow that breath to be with you, to keep your body in a state of being present while your emotions are also very present and maybe wanting your breath to speed up. Just allow it to flow in and out, up and down your spine, filling and releasing over and over. And take one more round of breath. And if you are in child's pose on this next inhale breath, just stretch out your arms so that they're stretched out in front of you, feeling some length into your sides. And then using your next breath, press your hands into the mat, begin to lift your body up, and come back up into a seated position with your hips back towards your heels. And if you're already seated, where we're going from here is that we are going to move into a butterfly position and then fold forward over both of our legs and then move into a wide-legged forward fold. And so I offer you just that piece of information because, as I've said before, sometimes we like to know where we're going and do things in different orders because we know our body best. But to join me in this 3-part forward fold, we're going to start from a seated position, bringing the soles of our feet together into a butterfly-like shape so that our knees are essentially the wings. Maybe our pet is the center of that, maybe not. But wherever we are in butterfly, I always like to just kind of get myself into this posture by giving myself a little bit of a foot massage when I'm able to. And so from this butterfly position, go ahead and just use your thumbs and the rest of your fingers. So just massage the bottom of your feet, massage the top of your feet. Pay attention to all 10 toes. Just take a moment to notice your feet. If we are on our feet throughout the day, we only pay attention to how they feel in the sense of how we're walking. Just pay attention to them while they're in a space of rest. And then maybe you want to notice your ankles, feel if there's any tension there that you'd like to just kind of massage out. And then when you're complete, go ahead and just rest your hands on your knees, palms up or down, whichever feels better for you. And then we'll just take one simple breath here with our spine pretty upright, coming back into that idea of breathing an inhale breath in all the way down, maybe the front line of our body into our pelvic floor. And then take an open mouth exhale if you feel like you need a sense of release, and just allow your shoulders to drop away from your ears. They've maybe crept up, and just let something go. And then on your next inhale breath, take an inhale breath again, all the way down to your hips. And then on an exhale, move your hands from your knees, maybe back down your legs to your feet or out in front of you, and just walk them forward, draping your upper body over the midline of your body, over your feet, and come down into a butterfly forward fold. You may notice as you're moving down that you'd like to move your hips or move your heels closer to your hips or farther away. Use the next breath or two to adjust in any way that you would like, and then settle in for about 2.5 minutes in this forward fold. Using your breath as a way to guide yourself into stillness and encourage yourself to stay in stillness even when you feel sensation. And as a reminder, when we say sensation, we aren't meaning something that's uncomfortable to the point of pain, but we might mean something that's very different than something you felt in a while. If you ever experience pain, please move out of the position that you're in into something that feels more comfortable from you. And feel free to check in with me if you have specific questions afterwards, if you'd like to try new modifications on your own. But you know your body best, and allow your breath to just allow you to explore it. And as we sink into this butterfly forward fold, as we move into the second month of the year over the weekend or after the weekend, I want to encourage us to think of 2022 as a new year for new opportunities, and approach whatever is coming ahead with a beginner's mindset. And I don't know what that will mean for each of you, and I'm not totally sure what it means for me yet, but lately, the idea of approaching something with a creative beginner's mindset has allowed me to move through any sense of anxiety or dread or uneasy about what am I supposed to do next. Can you allow yourself to dream big and pursue one of those dreams over the course of 2022? Many of us may have experienced a very different 2021 than we expected after the 2020 that we experienced. And so who knows what's coming, but can we approach it with an open mind towards dreaming, towards being creative, and being creative in community? So what's something you want to do this year? And who would you like to bring along on that adventure with you? And with your next breath, go ahead and stretch your arms back out, planting your palms on the mat. and walking yourself back, palm by palm, into an upright position. Maybe your hands come back to your feet, back to your ankles, and then back to your knees. And we're just going to take a few shoulder rolls here and kind of just pay attention to our neck a little bit. And so on an inhale breath, just inhale your shoulders up close to your ears and then roll them back. Coming down to your back, kind of like tucking your shoulder blades into little pockets on the back. And do this 3 more times on your own. Inhaling up and rolling them back. Notice what this feels like across your chest. Notice if this feels different than you expected. Do this just once more. And then we're going to do that 4 times in the opposite direction, which for me often feels more challenging, rolling my shoulders back and forward. But maybe for you, this is the easier option. It feels more natural. But just do this 2 more times, back, up by your ears and forward. Noticing anything that feels different as you do this. And then once you come back to center, just kind of like shake out and get a little playful for just a moment and see if there's anything that you just need to like shake out your hands, shake out your shoulders. Just let something fling off of you as if you're coming out of a pool or something like that. Just let something move away. And then from here, you can either come into a neck stretch where you drop one ear to a shoulder for 5 or 6 breaths and then drop the other, or you can just begin to just kind of twist and look around in a way that feels intuitive to you. But the purpose of the next minute or so is to stretch out and pay attention to the sides of our neck. And so I like to do this by dropping one ear to one shoulder, either looking down at that shoulder or up at the ceiling, or just neutral, and trying not to let the other shoulder come with me. So right now I have my right ear dropped towards my right shoulder, and I'm noticing that the left side of my neck has a lot of tension in it, probably due to the way I was seated throughout my day. So I'm just going to keep my head neutral and take a couple more breaths here. And then when I feel ready, I'm going to use an inhale to come back up to neutral. Maybe shaking off anything else I need to, or rolling my shoulders one more time. And then I'm going to drop my left ear to my left shoulder, trying not to let the right shoulder come with it. If you ever want to add more sensation into this, you can always stretch your arms out to the side or bring them down from stretched out to fingertips along the mat, which can look like it's initiating playtime. So I always caution the extra hand movements when you have extra special visitors, but it can add in a great extra neck stretch too. And so just take 4 more breaths on this side. And when you're ready, use an inhale to inhale your head back up to neutral. Notice anything that feels different than before, maybe in your neck, maybe in your hips, maybe just in your ability to realize that you've moved officially from whatever your day involved into a bit of rest and restoration and time for you. And so we're going to do a wide-legged fold. And so similar to how we were in butterfly, what we're going to do is just stretch one leg out at a time. Depending upon what your day has looked like, you might want to leave one leg tucked in. So I'm going to leave my left leg tucked in first and stretch your right leg directly out in front of you. Maybe you would like to do this and stretch yourself over your right leg, but maybe you would like to stretch your right leg out at a 45-degree angle and add in a bit of a twist. And so if you'd like to add in this twist, what we'll do is with our left leg tucked in, We'll put one hand on the outside of our right leg, one hand just kind of where it is right now, probably. Take an inhale breath, sitting up tall. Twist our upper body so that it's facing towards our outstretched foot. And then with our hands on each side, we'll just begin to walk our upper body forward. Any version of the pose is the pose. And so I know I just noticed that my expectation of how far down I would fold is very different than what my body is interested in doing today. And so it's important to remember that there's no right or wrong aside from pain. There's just what your body needs and what there's there to explore. And so wherever you are, either out at a 45-degree angle or stretched forward, use your next breath to see if you can settle in a little bit more. If you notice that you had a lot of neck tension or you would like to make this a little bit more restorative, you might have props nearby and want to find a way to build yourself kind of a tower to rest your head on. To just rest your forehead down. Allow some tension that's maybe in your forehead between your eyebrows to just release. Close your eyes and just be here for the next couple minutes. Alternatively, you might like to just keep your head up, flex your toe back towards your face, and add in a bit more stretch across your calf. So wherever you are, see if this stretch can allow you some release across your leg and also across your side body. Something that I have written here from the first time I taught part of this class was choose dreams over fear. I'm not sure what I meant by that at the time, but as I look ahead to 2022, it feels more relevant than ever to choose that I have no idea what might be happening, but I'm going to take a step towards what I hope is happening, rather than a step away from what I fear might be happening. And so I encourage you tonight to use your breath as maybe an exercise towards, can I stretch a little bit more? Versus, do I need to not try this hard? Because the knee pose is the pose and your breath is your guide. And so trust yourself. Use this as a chance to explore a little bit of adventuring, explore a little bit of dreaming. And take 3 more breaths here on this side, wherever you are. And then we'll get ready to move to the other side. Go ahead and plant your hands on either side of your outstretched leg, pressing your palms into the mat, beginning to use, coming up maybe on to fingertips. Slowly walk yourself back up, being careful to come out just as slowly as we come in so that our body doesn't feel like it's experiencing the snap of a rubber band and that our muscles can just adjust. And once you're back at the top, maybe you want to bring in that outstretched leg back to butterfly for just a moment and flutter your wings, have a little bit of fun momentarily. You can have a little bit of fun the whole time, but you know what I mean. And just take a moment to just do whatever makes sense to you as a reset. And decide how you would like to stretch out your left leg if you're going through the same flow that I am. Whether you'd like to stretch it straight out in front of you or stretch it out at a 45-degree angle. I always encourage us to do things symmetrically, but if you try one angle and decide that you absolutely want the other angle, please feel free to take what your body needs. This is your time and your class and your practice. And so taking an inhale breath, sitting up tall. If you're adding in that twist, placing one hand on each side of your leg and twisting your upper body to face towards your left foot. And then using an exhale breath to slide or walk your hands out, coming down forward over that knee, bringing any props that you would like to build a tower for your forehead to rest on. And noticing what this feels like across your right side if your left leg is stretched out, across your hamstring, quad. If you'd like to add a calf stretch, maybe flex your toe back towards your face. And then settle in here, adventuring our way through our own body through these simple movements and staying with the sensation. Always coming back to your breath whenever you need it. And if the wave visualization or something similar wasn't something that worked for you tonight, you can always come back to just the general idea that as we inhale, we're filling ourselves up, maybe breathing in as if we can fill out a little bit of a space that's experiencing a stretch. And as we exhale, we're making some space as we let go of something, being able to move into that space, kind of clearing something out. It can be physically, emotionally. Just letting things be cyclical, seasonal, and knowing that as difficult as it can be, very few things are actually as permanent as we feel that they are. And that's okay. It does not have to feel okay in the moment. But if we lean into it, lean into our community, dream together and adventure together, it's a lot more fun along the way to wherever we're going. So place both hands on each side of your outstretched leg, press them down, walk yourself back up. Flutter your butterfly wings a little bit more, massage your feet anymore. And we're going to move into another two-sided posture next, which is deer pose, which I love and am always challenged by every single time I try it. And so for this posture, you might want to have blocks or a bolster nearby. I'm going to grab mine real quick because there's an opportunity to fold forwards or backwards, depending upon what you need. I will be folding backwards just because I like how similar this can be to saddle posture. And so I'll be placing the bolster behind me lengthwise on my mat, just getting ready for the possibility that I'll fold back onto it. I also like to add blocks on either side, knowing that depending upon how my day has been, my body might not fold in the way I think it should or wants it to. And so from this pose, what you'll do is just kind of turn yourself sideways into butterfly so that you are lengthwise along your mat. If you have props behind you, just make sure that they're available to you if you'd like to have them. And then to get into deer pose, just from butterfly, what we'll do is I'll start with my left leg forward as it is, and basically leave it as it is, lift up my right leg and swing it around so that my right shin is essentially parallel to the side of my mat. And my left shin will move forward a little bit, similar to how it might be in a pigeon pose. And so this will stretch out potentially different parts of your hips that If you've had a day like me, you forgot existed sometimes. And so this is deer pose as it is, with our left shin parallel to the top of our mat, our right shin parallel to the side of our mat. And from here, this is one version of the pose. And you might want to just place both of your hands down on the mat. Stay right where you are because you're experiencing a ton of sensation across the front of your right thigh into kind of your inner groin area and hip flexor. And this is where you want to be. You might want to twist a little bit, placing both hands more on outside of the left knee, and notice that that changes the sensation in your thigh. Or alternatively, you can walk your hands forward, seeing what that feels like across your probably more left hip than right hip, or walk yourself backward to add in some more opening across your right hip. There is no goal of lying flat in any of these folding alternative options. We're simply focusing on kind of a hip flexor stretch here. And I remember the first time I tried this posture, it looked very, very simple, as if I should be able to fold completely flat forward or backwards based on who I was watching guide me through. And there was a 0% chance that was happening for me. I think I sat upright the whole first time I tried this. And so know that our hips can often hold a lot of tension that we don't realize is there until we find it. And then we find it. And so use your breath as a guide. Sit with this for a couple minutes. And then we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. And over the next 2 breaths, if you have folded and you would like to change your mind, please change your mind. And then just settle in to somewhere you can be for about another 2 minutes. And take 2 more breath cycles, one as you are, and one just mentally preparing yourself to shift out of deer. If you love this pose, you can always come back to it. If you don't, there's a chance you might in the future. Wherever you are, press your hands down. If you are lying back, press your forearms and then come up to your palms. And then slowly walk yourself forward, leaving your legs as they are momentarily until your spine is back upright. And then being really gentle with yourself, go ahead and lift up that right leg. Bring that sole of that foot back around. And this time, what we're going to do is just kind of bring both the soles of our feet to the ground with our knees pointed up to the ceiling for just a moment and just windshield wiper our knees side to side. It's a pretty intense stretch for different parts of our body, depending on any variations we took. And so just allow yourself to reset momentarily before we move into the opposite side. You might want to drop the knees to one side, kind of exaggerate that stretch, and then drop them to the other side, having your arms behind you so that you add in somewhat of an arm stretch. And then slowly making those drops a little slower until you come back to neutral. And then sitting yourself up just enough so that we can move into deer with our right leg forward this time. And so to get back in, come back into that right leg in a butterfly shape. Swing your left leg around so that your shin is parallel to the side of your mat, and your right shin is parallel to the top of your mat. And then notice how your hips feel in deer pose on this side. Maybe it's as expected, maybe it's different. Either way, that's where you're at right now. And so take an inhale breath and decide if you would like to try folding forward or backwards on this side. And then on your exhale breath, move accordingly. Maybe you want to walk your hands forward to test that out. And you decide that you would like to walk back up and walk your hands back a little bit. But focus on the sensations that you feel across your hips, your hip flexors, be across your hamstrings or your glutes. And allow yourself to find somewhere that you can be still, even with all of the sensation that you might be experiencing. Use your breath as a guide. Maybe close your eyes. I like to think of deer sometimes as similar sensation to what I might get in a lizard lunge without as much effort in the same way. Not having to hold myself up, just exploring the sensation, exploring the opening, and allowing myself to not have to focus on balance for a couple poses. Take a couple more breaths here, using one to mentally picture yourself moving out, and then that third one to move out of this posture once you reach it. And so once you reach that third breath, plant your hands back down, press them into the mat, and guide yourself back up, pausing for just a moment in this upright position. And then slowly pick up your left leg, swing it around, bring the soles of your feet to the mat, and come back and windshield wiper a little bit more. When you feel complete, we're going to make our way into tabletop position for thread the needle, with the option to do thread the needle with our hips back in child's pose. And so find your way onto your hands and your knees whenever you are finished windshield wipering your knees and letting your hips reset. You don't need your bolster, so you can set that aside momentarily. We will come back to it. And so once you find yourself with your knees underneath your hips, palms planted down, hands underneath your shoulders. We'll just flow through cat-cow to wake up our spine a little bit more, feel into it, and shift from an upward facing to a downward facing orientation. And so from the tabletop position, just inhale and drop your belly, look up towards the sky, the ceiling. And exhale, drop your head, arch your spine up to the ceiling. And really focus on noticing how your heart moves up and down through the plane of between your shoulders as you inhale and exhale in this cat-cow, moving with the speed of your breath for a couple more times. Maybe you want to exaggerate it a little bit. Maybe you tilt your head side to side a little bit, shake out any remaining neck tension, letting anything else go. Maybe you sway your hips side to side, look over one shoulder at a time. Just have a little bit of fun in these transitions. And then when you are ready, arriving back in neutral. And it's your choice, as always, which side you start with on two-sided postures. I'm going to start with leaving my left leg with my left palm planted and opening up my right arm on an inhale breath up to the ceiling. So I'm kind of opening up this wing, looking up towards my thumb. And then on the next exhale breath, swinging my right arm under, coming down onto my left shoulder on the mat. The right side of my face is on the mat. Actually, yeah, I'm coming down onto my right shoulder. It's underneath my left shoulder. My right side of my face is on the mat. My hips are still high, but maybe you want to shift your hips back towards your heels. Come into child's pose to stretch out a little bit more of your side body. And your arm can be as it is with your hand planted, or maybe you walk it forward into child's pose like arms, or do something else that makes sense to you. But wherever you are in this thread the needle posture, notice what it's like to feel potentially a sensation of opening across your back while also experiencing some compression. And maybe there's a little bit of an element of balance here. In these yin classes, I try not to get us too active, but sometimes in two-sided postures, we find the ability and the opportunity to work on balance in creative ways. So allow yourself to use your breath to guide into stillness and just be here for a couple minutes. When working with the sensation of inhaling to experience fullness, maybe you inhale to experience breathing as if you could inflate your right shoulder, even while it's on the mat. And as you exhale, allow it to sink into the mat. Just about a minute more on this side. On your next breath cycle, use the inhale to bring your left palm back towards your face. Press it into the mat and unthread that needle. Untwist that right arm back out to the side. Maybe you bring it all the way back up above you. and then set it back down on the mat in that tabletop-like position. Move through anything of transition that you choose. Maybe it's a couple cat-cows, maybe it's stillness, maybe it's something else. You shift back into child's pose momentarily to stretch out your back. But find yourself back in neutral. And then we will do the same thing on the other side. So this time my right hand is planted, my left arm is opening up towards the ceiling. And then on an exhale breath, it's swinging through. So my left arm, left shoulder this time is coming down, left side of the mat, head on the mat. And then my right hand is just going to stay planted right next to my face or stretch out as needed. And then your hips, of course, can stay upright or shifted back into a child's pose position. Returning to your breath. Returning to noticing which parts of your body feel an opening, which parts maybe feel compression. Coming back to noticing which parts of your body are touching the ground. I'm just riding this wave of this posture before we get ready to move to the next. Bringing your right palm back next to your face as you're ready. Staying there for a moment. And then on an inhale breath, press your hand down into the mat. Untwist your left arm up towards the ceiling, up towards the sky, and plant it back down on the mat. Coming back briefly, momentarily, into tabletop, flowing through some cat-cows, noticing maybe what your upper back and your shoulders feel like now after experiencing that series of poses. Noticing any more opening across your spine, maybe wagging your tail side to side, looking over one shoulder if you haven't already, noticing what that sensation feels like, to just play a little bit with your hips. And then from here, we're going to come into Pigeon Pose. And I like to do Pigeon Pose as a restorative posture for my upper body with a bolster out in front of me. And so if you would like to try that, go ahead and grab your bolster or your pillows, place it in front of you, staying in tabletop position, knowing that you can adjust your bolster as you need. And we're going to, essentially this is kind of a version of thread the needle-ish with your legs, I just realized. And so we're going to start with our left knee forward first. And so from tabletop, what you'll do is just lift up your left knee, move it towards your left wrist, and then you'll be stretching out your right leg out behind you. Maybe you keep your toes tucked and inch that leg back. And then open up that left leg, kind of hinging it open. Your shin may or may not open up very much depending upon what your body needs. But then moving the bolster closer to you so that from pigeon with your arms up, you can place both hands, one hand on each side, walk yourself forward, and allow your chest to just rest down onto the bolster. Maybe you want to bring the left side of your face to the bolster. Maybe you want to bring your forehead to the bolster. But find yourself a sense of rest in this pigeon pose with your left leg forward. See what an exhale can feel like. Can you sink yourself a little bit more, melting down into that bolster if you have it, or melt yourself over your front leg. Feeling that compression in one hip and opening in the other hip. Similar to maybe what you experienced in one shoulder and the other shoulder in our last pose. As you settle in this final minute of pigeon on this side, if you'd like to change where your forehead is or your side of your face is, make that adjustment. And then bring your palms from wherever they are back flat onto the surface underneath you. And you know where we go from here. We press our palms into the mat, lift our upper body up. And then the way that I like to transition from pigeon to tabletop is to tuck my back right toe, walk my hands in a little bit, and then shift my back leg forward so that I'm coming back onto that knee, and use that to pick up and kind of unthread the left leg. And sometimes if you have inversions or you'd like to add an inversion, a mini inversion into your practice tonight, you might want to lift up into downward dog momentarily if you need more leg opening. I use this sometimes as a transition pose, but it's definitely a bit more active if we have been experiencing some fatigue, or especially if you've been experiencing long COVID. I could not do downward dog as a transition for a long time. So tabletop is a great way to transition, cat-cow, flowing through your spine, and then getting ready for the other side. And so when you're ready, we'll just leave our left knee planted, lift up our right knee and move it towards our right wrist, and then tuck those back toes, shift the left leg back, leaving them tucked or untucking them when it's settled. And then grabbing that bolster back out in front of us, taking an inhale breath upright, and then letting our exhale guide us forward. Maybe hugging that bolster, resting one side of our face onto it, and just settling in for a couple more minutes. What is it that in 2022 you dream of doing? And if I've learned anything over the last few years, it's that even if the dream that I have right now doesn't come true in 2022, I will most certainly decide if it's something that I want to re-pursue in 2023. And so it can be easy to dream and then realize that we're not actually getting closer to our dream and set it aside. But I would encourage you each month this year, see if there's one thing that you can take that gets you a little bit closer towards that dream. Maybe there's more than one thing, but try and take at least one step towards whatever something is that you dream of doing. And you'll get there because each thing requires us to just take tiny little steps at first. And so maybe you have a dream from 2020 that got put aside. See if you'd like to pick it back up. See if there's something you can do this next month toward that dream, if it's something you still want. Find someone to go on that adventure with you, or just to share in that journey with you. And take little steps towards that for you. And so press your hands down on either side of the prop or just in front of you. Guide your upper body up. Walk your hands back towards you whenever you're ready. Tuck that back toe and shift your bolster out in front. Press both hands into the mat and find your way back to tabletop or transition of your choice. Maybe you want to just be here in tabletop, shifting your hips side to side, not doing anything with your spine, just moving into your hips. And reset in any way that you need to before shifting back, sitting onto your seat. Don't need to have your toes tucked. Don't worry, we're not coming into toes pose at the end of our practice. I would never do that to us. But we are going to come down onto our back. And so from here, just shift to one side and bring your legs out in front of you. Knees up towards the ceiling momentarily. Windshield wiper maybe a little bit more to unwind your hips a little bit. And then shift so that you can come lying to flat on your back with your knees up towards the ceiling. And just briefly notice what it feels like to be back in an upright position, or a face up position rather. It can be quite a transition to move from pigeon into an upright position, maybe even feeling a little bit emotionally vulnerable. But we're going to come into our last pose before Shavasana here, which is going to be a laying spinal twist with the option for eagle legs, which is one of my favorite ways to close out a practice and just kind of wring out anything else that we have left. And we're going to spend a little bit longer in this on each side. And so what we'll do first is from here with our knees up towards the ceiling, we'll just leave our left leg planted lift up our right leg and cross it over, kind of like you're crossing your legs when you're sitting down. Cross your left foot into the mat and shift your hips a little bit to the right, just so that you can keep as much of your body on your mat as you can. Take an inhale breath here, and then on an exhale breath, you'll just drop your knees over to the left. If you aren't crossing your legs, you'll just have your knees pointed up and then drop them both to the left. Maybe you do want to add in a prop to catch your knees or allow them to rest a little bit, because the twist feels more sensational than you would like. But wherever you are, try and keep both of your shoulders as planted on the mat as you can, your chest pointed up towards the ceiling. And then with your arms, if you'd like to add in a bit of a chest stretch opener, heart opener, you can bring your arms directly out to your sides, or maybe up over your head to add in a bit of a side stretch. Or just keep your hands planted somewhere on your body that works for you. But you should feel quite a sensation and stretch across your right side body, maybe across the right side of your back, maybe down into your hips, across your IT band. And depending upon where your arms are, maybe across your chest, across your triceps, your biceps. And just close your eyes if you feel comfortable and settle in. Allowing this twist to bring out anything else, maybe physical or emotional sensation that you would like to release. As always, don't need to release things until we're ready to release them. But when we are, using the practice of yin yoga, moving, guiding ourselves into these postures, can allow us to practice emotionally letting go, emotionally moving through, and emotionally just being with things as we work on being with physical sensation. And so allow your breath to be with you as a guide, as a comforter, and as a constant presence along the journey of life. On your next breath, if your legs are crossed, uncross them, but leave them stacked over towards the left. And take 2 more breaths with your legs uncrossed, but just stacked to the left. Notice what feels different once you uncrossed your legs. What does an inhale feel like? Maybe what does an open mouth exhale feel like? And then bracing yourself to move your knees back up to center, keeping your core braced if you would like. Bring your knees back up towards the ceiling. Bring the soles of your feet down to the mat. Shift your hips back to the center. And then just either windshield wiper or bring the soles of your feet to the outside of your mat and let your knees knock in together. Just spend just a little bit of time here before we transition to the other side. Noticing what this feels like. Noticing now what it feels like to take a deep breath all the way in, down into your hips, into your pelvic floor. Maybe feeling your lower back press down into the mat as you inhale, and then rise up off the mat a little bit as you exhale. Or maybe it's vice versa for you tonight. And then bring the soles of your feet back towards the center, preparing to press our right foot into the mat and lift our left leg up and cross it over. And then shift our hips a little bit to the left so that we can drop them all the way over to the right. Maybe your back experiences some snaps, crackles, and pops of release. See if you can keep your shoulders planted on the mat, chest pointed up towards the ceiling. And again, bringing your hands where it makes sense to you, stretching your arms out to the sides or up over your head, or placing your hands on your body and breathing into those places. We're about halfway through one of our final poses before we move into our final Shavasana. And so what else is there that you are holding on to that you would like to release a little bit tonight? Whether that be physical or emotional, or maybe nothing. Maybe you are just happy to be in this space, holding on to this moment and just being with it. Allowing the waves of your breath to just flow through your body, bringing some attention to them, but not allowing it to get you too distracted from just being with yourself. On your next breath, if your legs are crossed, uncross them, but leave them stacked over to the right. Spend a couple breaths there. And then when you're ready, use an inhale breath to bring your knees back up to the center and anything else that comes with you. And then place the soles of your feet on the outside of the mat. Drop your knees in, or windshield wiper, either leaving them dropped in together or knocking one in at a time and then the other. Seeing what that feels like across your hips, across the fronts of your legs, backs of your legs. And then curl your knees into your chest wrap your arms around them or bring your hands to the tops of your knees, tops of your shins. Just curl yourself into a little ball and rock side to side from here. Noticing how this feels on your back. These are really small rocks. Maybe they're more exaggerated. And then from here, grab onto the backs of your thighs, continuing that rocking motion. Maybe you rock one leg more than the other and your knees aren't exactly together anymore. And then from there, see if you can grab onto the outside edges of your feet, coming into happy baby position, bringing your knees down into your armpits, continuing that rocking motion or staying in stillness. Just feeling what it's like to be a little playful here on our back. Notice how our spine feels as we rock. And then make those rocks a little bit slower, making them a little bit more slow. Maybe you want to bring the soles of your feet back together into butterfly while lying on your back like this, coming all the way back to where we started. And then when you're ready, release your hands from your feet, from your legs. And bring your legs out long in front of you. Stretching them out. Lying them flat along the mat. Maybe you want to stretch them up to the ceiling first, one at a time or both. And then as you stretch them out, maybe your legs are together, maybe they're separated, closer to the edges of your mat. Stretch your arms up toward the ceiling and just briefly stretch them up over your head. And feel the fullness of what it feels like to be completely flat, completely stretched out, and completely long along the mat. You can stay here for your 5-minute Shavasana, or you might want to bring your hands onto your body somewhere, down at your sides, or onto your pet if they've joined you. But wherever you decide to leave them, get yourself cozy. Add anything that you would like to add, or maybe place a bolster under your knees if you know that that will feel great for you. And just settle into your Shavasana for the next 5 minutes. I will be offering a little bit of a body scan, but feel free to just zone out and tune into your own self. No need to pay attention to your breath. No need to move or hold in any specific ways. If you fall asleep, hopefully you can still hear me and I will guide you back into a final breath together. But just let everything relax. If you'd like to be guided into that, maybe you begin to notice what your toes feel like. Maybe you wiggle them just a little bit and then let them go. And then maybe you notice what your ankles feel like. No need to move them to see if as you inhale, just notice that you have them. And then let them sink, letting your feet just flop out to the sides if they're not already. And on your next inhale, you notice what your calves feel like, pressed along the mat, resting, what your shins feel like, resting down onto your legs. And you let them go with your exhale. And then inhaling, notice what your hamstrings feel like. Notice how long they are. And then as you exhale, your knee, the tops of your legs just sink down, melt into the mat. On your next inhale, notice the full length of both of your legs. And then on an exhale, you just let them melt into the mat. And then you begin to notice each of your arms, fingertips up towards shoulder, maybe one at a time, or both at the same time, feeling into your wrists, letting them rest, feeling into your forearms and your elbows, and then letting them rest. And finally feeling into your shoulders and letting them rest against the mat, lying flat. And then you notice the rest of your body, the center part, the core, your stomach, your lungs, your heart, powerhouse, aside from your brain. And then you just let it melt down into the mat, your heart down into your upper back, lungs into your ribs. Just let it melt, let it be. And finally, the back of your head connected to the rest of your body by your neck. It's just resting along the mat, holding your mind, holding your eyes, holding your nose and your mouth at the beginning point of each of your breaths. And you just let it be. Let it rest. And as you come into your body again, you wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, begin to wiggle your wrists and your ankles. And picture yourself curling your knees in and rolling to one side. No need to do it just yet, but just imagine yourself doing that. And then use the next couple breaths to make that happen. Maybe you don't curl your knees in, you just roll over to that side. And then once you find yourself on your side, just take a couple breaths there, feeling fully supported by everything underneath you, fully wrapped in the blanket around you, and just held by your breath. Something that we have all come to gain a new relationship and a new appreciation for. And then when you're ready, as we've been doing, use your hands to press them down into the mat and find yourself up in your version of a comfortable seat. No rush, No hurry. Keeping your eyes closed if you'd like to. And then once you find yourself back into a seat, maybe you brought some of your props with you. Just bring your hands anywhere that you would like. Drop back into yourself for just one more breath. And then we'll take one final breath together. Inhaling fully back down into our hips, into our pelvic floor. And then exhaling fully out our nose or our mouth. Thanking yourself for taking this time for yourself, for joining me and special guest Tales this evening, and for caring for yourself in an intentional way. Only you made the choice to be here, and you guided yourself through, and your breath was with you. So take something from this into your year, into dreaming, and into taking little steps each month towards that dream. You'll get there. Thank you.
Thank you for taking a class with me, taking this time for you, and being a part of my online offering of free yin and restorative yoga to anyone who needs a break. As per usual, since this is YouTube, I'm here to ask you to subscribe, like, and share this video with anyone you think who might enjoy the same break that you just took. And if you would like to financially support these offerings, feel free to check out the description or visit my website, unbrokencircles.com, and you can see various ways to support me through Venmo, PayPal, or sharing the offerings that I put out with others who might need them. Thank you for taking this time. I love offering this to you, to anyone who needs it, and I'm grateful that you took this time to be with yourself, with me, and I hope to see you again. Please feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions. Have a great day.